Hello YouTube. I thought I'd go ahead and make my Vortex video right now. Hopefully you can see me okay on this. I'm currently in my kitchen, sitting at my table, and I thought I'd go ahead and do this video. Dedication to Vortex. Like I said before, I stand corrected that I thought Vertigo would be gone this year, and the reason I thought that for sure that would have been in Vertigo was because the Vekoma Boomerang coaster that they had at California's Adventure, or Great America, excuse me, out in California, they had a ride there called Stinger, which was similar to the same as the one there at Kings Island. And with that one being removed after it went to Dorney Park as a ride named Stinger, renamed as Stinger, and they brought the train from there over to Kings Island this past summer to use. And I thought that would be on the way out, but I'm going to tell you, it is on its way out. It's going to be just a matter of time before it gets removed as well. Because that ride, it's just, you know, it's low capacity too. Now, I'm shocked that Vortex is leaving, but I'm not shocked, okay? Vortex is a high capacity ride, and with it being removed at Kings Island this next year, there's going to be a big empty void there at Kings Island. So it's a big thing to hear, because a lot of people still like Vortex, and it's still a popular ride, even though it's a headbanger. But again, it goes back to budgets and things like I talked about in my previous videos, that Kings Island will remove something because they have to follow in budgets and everything else. They're not going to add new attractions without killing something, because they have to in order to keep the budgets maintained for labor purposes. And if you own a business, you would understand when I'm talking about labor versus budgets and all that good stuff. So unfortunately, they finally decided it's time for Vortex, and after 33 successful seasons, and with me being a first rider on Vortex, it's really sad for me to see it leave, and it's really heart-wrenching. So last year, if you followed my videos last year, before they named Firehawk being the one that was leaving, I brought up Vortex was probably on the chopping block back then. So, you know, Vortex was something that's been talked about for the past few years that it was going to be removed. And there's a lot of rumors going around saying it was sinking and things like that, which I don't know if it was sinking or not for sure. But I don't believe that is the reason behind it, although it has had a lot of mechanical problems in the past few years. About 3 years ago, the chain broke, and they had to get a part for it that wasn't available, and they had to have one manufactured especially for Vortex, because aerodynamics went out of business. So this is going to be a little bit of a long video, a little lengthy, because I am going to talk about it, and we're going to talk a little bit about Vortex and my knowledge of Vortex, things that's happened with Vortex, good and bad. And just because there's some bad things that's happened don't mean that it was a terrible ride or Kings Island was negligent in any way, okay? Things happen, things do happen, and that's just the way it is, okay? For the most part, Kings Island is a very, very safe park, okay? They've got a really good safety record. I can't stress that enough, that maintenance and Kings Island is very, very safe. All right, with that said, when I worked at Kings Island back in '87, I worked food service, and we was cleaning food stands like from February and March and April. We was cleaning food stands, getting them ready, you know, for summer operation. And with them with us getting the food stands ready and everything, we was watching Vortex being built through the winter months of '86 and into '87. And it was a sight to see. I mean, it was this big, huge looking machinery, and we was like, wow, you know, we was astounded by it. And I remember the day when a chain started up, and we was like, oh man, they just started a chain up. So we went over to check it out, and we asked, I said, well, can we ride this? And they was like, well, not yet. We got to do testing and yada yada. Then we got to do sandbags and so forth. So anyway, which is understandable. So we had to wait. They said in a few days we'll let you guys ride. And this is in the middle of March. Okay, it was really cold out. Snow flurries. The day that we did ride, it was little snow flurries, and it was cold. Man, we was bundled up. And one of the pictures I'm going to show you will prove that it was really cold, as you can tell. We had our winter coats on, and anyway, they finally got on the intercom at Kings Island. They told us, they said, well, anybody wants to ride Vortex, come on back. So we did. We took Hollywood Butt back there to ride it. And so the very first train that left the station with people on it, I was on that train. And I'll tell you what, we rode it about 10, 12 times in a row. And it was so fun. We was like, wow, you know, because back then, of course, it was smooth. It was, you know, brand new. And the coaster, as it went around the track, it was squeaky, you know, because it was a squeaky because the wheels were so, you know, new, and the track was new, and everything just, you know, squeaky because it was just so new. And but anyway, we rode it quite a few times, and we even did a commercial for the very first Vortex commercial, and that was the one that had the iron grip when it first came out in Vortex. And that'd be that right here, this emblem here that they used, and it was on the Vortex commercial. And I was on that commercial as well, and that was the very first commercial that Kings Island made for Vortex. There's the newsletter that they give the Kings Island employees at the time that year in '87, and that's where the Vortex was under construction. And that was one of the newsletters that they gave us out. And this was March of '87 when this was taken. So we got to get on there, and here's a picture here of, let's see, Vortex tested and ready to run. Let's see if you can see it okay on there. And you can see me right up here. I got my hand up right there. That's me right there with my hand up. And that was where we was in a corkscrew, because you can tell if you turn the picture that way, you see the trees in the background, so that was in a corkscrew. But that is the very first riders, and we're all employees on this coaster when it was first built. And you can see we all have our winter coats on, and you can tell everybody's cold on there, but we still had a good time. And Holly there in the front, she's got mittens on. You can see mittens on her hands because it was really cold. But yes, it was tested and ready to run, so we had a ball. But that was back in March of 1987 when we rode that. It was in the middle of March, and we had a really good time. And so like I said, it's really going to be something to see this go. Just something real quick, I'm going to share in this newsletter here. This is Vortex Time. You see on the racers here, there's Don Helbig. He sure don't look like that now, does he? He don't have no hair. But anyway, there's Don Helbig, where he used to do some racer, when he was doing his racer counts. He's up over around 13,000 rides now. Back then, let's see, that was his 6,000th ride on July 17th of 1987. And that's Don Helbig. Now, he is a PR guy there at Kings Island right now. So, Don, if you're watching this, I know I talked to you this last time when the Orion announcement, and you was telling me that she was up around 13,000. So, it's pretty cool. That's a big accomplishment. Another thing, I did have some service awards while I was at Kings Island. Some things that I did while I was there, where I had some fun while I was there in resale, which was food service. I did Potato Works at Rivertown Potato Works mostly, and sometimes I did Timberwolf concerts, and other times at the end of the season, whenever they were short-handed and short-staffed, sometimes I was able to get on the Beast crew, which was fun. So I got to operate Beast and help out back there a couple of times, which I really enjoyed. There's one of my Food Service Excellence gold badges I got from Kings Island with their Apple program. And then also my other Kings Island, I got my stickers all over top of my name there. But Food Service Kings Island, I was able to keep my name badge and all the apples. And I think this red apple goes on this one. It fell off. But these apples you get was really hard to get because you had to, be up above and beyond, do your duties and things, and it was really tough to get those because every 5 apple cards you get, you got a green apple. So it was hard to get those apple cards. But you got put in a drawing to win cars at the end of the season and stuff like that, and it was really cool. So going back to Vortex, the sinking rumor, I don't believe that for a fact. A lot of people sitting there talking about the sinking. I don't think that's any factual to that at all. Also, whenever they built Vortex, if you remember the Beast used to had a big pond where the coaster would come out of the station, and it went out over the big old pond that used to be a lake there, where the coaster would go over, and it used to have a canoe ride there. I don't know if you remember the canoes, and if you watch Brady Bunch, I know you've seen the canoes where they was doing the sketches, looking for Yogi Bear sketches, which they do find in one of the canoes. But Kings Island used to have a canoe ride there prior to the Beast installation. The water effects that they had there at the Beast station was really cool, and it's a shame they're gone. But they took it out for Vortex, because when they built Vortex, they needed to have maintenance road built over on that one side, and the pond was kind of in the way, so they went ahead and took the water features out, and which really sucks because it was really cool to check all the water features out, and the water mill that was there and everything. I mean, it was really cool. So that was removed in 1987 when Vortex first opened. The station that Vortex is in was the original BAT station that was built in 1981, and the BAT was removed because it had plagued mechanical issues. It couldn't operate correctly. So Arrow first built that, and Arrow gave Kings Island a deal on Vortex when they first built Vortex. And when Vortex was built, it was a record-breaking coaster, and first of its kind that was built in the park by Aerodynamics. Pardon my dogs. So anyway, if you go into the station, you can see remnants where the BAT used to be. If you look on the floor when you get out of the roller coaster, and when you get off to exit the ride, you can see like a great big round metal, like I don't know what you would call it, a big old round disc. That is where one of the main poles used to hold the BAT up. The big post used to sit down inside there, and they just covered it up because the wooden floor was the original floor that was there for the BAT, and so they did was put a metal cover over that to cover that hole up. And then also, like if you look at the entryway where the coaster comes in, if you look straight up, you can see where there is like cutouts right up above to where the track of the BAT used to be up high, and the wood is cut out like kind of rounded like, and that was where one of the poles that went through, the main poles that held the track up, went through into the loading area. So that was the original BAT house. And a lot of people didn't know that the BAT used to have queue lines that was downstairs. There was a downstairs down below Vortex station that used to be a queue line area, and that was used for the BAT. But whenever Vortex opened, they never used the downstairs. They closed it off and just used it for storage, like brooms and dustpans and things like that, cleaning supplies. And I guess that at some point they used it as a break area as well, for employees on a quick break or whatever. So anyway, that's some of the information about that, with the station being there with the former BAT. And also, if you look around, you'll still see some footers of the original BAT coaster. There's still a couple of them that's out there. If you ride Vortex, you can see it. They're still sitting there. It's just where they cut the metal off and just left the jagged metal pieces there with all the bolts holding down in the concrete. And the BAT used to be black, so it's black post. But still, there are some remains of the bat that's there, which I'm sure that they'll be taken out whenever they take this Vortex out. Also, whenever I was working there during the winter time when we was cleaning the food stands, a construction worker fell from one of the beams, and he fell down and hit the patio there at La Rosa's Rivertown. And it was about maybe 30 to 40 feet. And the poor guy fell, and I seen him fall. And at this time, there was no communication devices because, you know, it was the off season, and most of the food stands were locked up, and we couldn't use the telephones. So I had to run all the way up to first aid and get help for this guy, and he broke his back. So that was the end of that. But he did survive. He never died from his injuries, but he never did work again, I'm sure, because he broke his back. And it was really a sad situation. Vortex valleyed a few times. There's been a couple times it valleyed in between the two loops. That's happened from time to time, and a lot of times that happens because the track might be really cold at the beginning of the season. The wheels might be a little too tight on the coaster, and the coaster is going too slow and just don't make it through the loop. And sometimes it just don't make it, and it goes backwards and valleys. Just a couple weeks ago, the Invertigo valleyed. So it happens. Cedar Point has the same problem at times, especially when high winds are up there. That's the reason why their coasters shut down a lot of times, like Raptor, Top Thrill Dragster, Maverick, and Millennium Force, because all those coasters have valleyed. And even Iron Dragon has valleyed as well. So that's just something there also that does happen. 3 years ago, I mentioned that the chain broke on Vortex, and that was down for a while because they couldn't get a part for it because Aerodynamics was out of business. They went bankrupt and went out. So they had to have a chain, especially a part especially made for Vortex, so that way they can operate the ride again. And they've been having a lot of mechanical issues since. So that's one of the big reasons why Vortex is leaving. Now, Kings Island still has two other aerodynamic roller coasters in the park, and that's Adventure Express and the new Bat, which was formerly Top Gun, also known as Flight Deck. Those both are aerodynamic roller coasters that remain still at Kings Island. And plus, when Vortex came out, it was first of its kind. It was a world-breaking roller coaster. It was a very iconic roller coaster, and it still is today. It's still pretty popular. So again, I was really surprised that they was taken out this soon. But again, it don't surprise me because the headbanging effect that's going on with it right now. This landmass, once they take this out, is going to open up a big, huge area. Surely they're not going to leave that empty, okay? And with that being said, I think that Kings Island has plans, I'm sure, for the 50th anniversary coming up in 2022. And I do believe that there's going to be another coaster installed in its place. Yes, we got Orion, a very expensive ride, but however, with Vortex leaving, it's still a major ride, and I do believe that something will replace it in the Vortex space. And what I think is going to happen is going to be for the 50th anniversary in 2022, because it'll be 50 years for Kings Island. And I think what they may end up putting in would probably be a Mack rides coaster like Copperhead Strike down in Carowinds, or they can put something in from Gerstlauer, because they're starting to use Gerstlauer now for Knott's Berry Farm. And also they may just go ahead with another B&M coaster, maybe possibly a wing or a dive coaster possibly, or another launch type coaster, who knows. I don't think they'll put another wooden coaster in just yet. I think they've got enough wood coasters there at Kings Island now. I do think it'd be some type of a metal coaster, and then again, it may be another loop-de-loop type coaster, a new era of a loop-de-loop coaster to replace Vortex. So, who might design it? I don't think it'd be Intamin, because Cedar Fair don't mess with Intamin much anymore, and they haven't installed any Intamin rides since they've had so many problems with Intamin. So if they go with anything, it's going to be something that's reliable like B&M. And then again, like I said, they're starting to deal with Gerstlauer and also dealing with Mack rides as well for roller coasters. Vekoma, I don't think they'll use Vekoma either, because they are removing Vekoma coasters, it seems like, as of late. If you remember, the slogan of Vortex is called "Feel the Grip." That was their slogan when they first came out with. That was kind of awesome, because it would be on the commercial, it would say "Feel the grip of Vortex." So it was pretty cool back then whenever they first came out with that. And plus they had that iron fist like I was talking about a little bit ago. And last year, like I said, I thought Vortex was going to leave last year, but they announced Firehawk, which that took me by surprise. But then again, it didn't surprise me, because Firehawk did have a lot of mechanical issues. So, you know, it's give or take. You don't know exactly for sure what they're going to do exactly, but usually people know. And a lot of times if you just listen, a lot of times they let things out and let it slip. But they're pretty tight-lipped about this one this year. So, somebody asked in one of my videos just a little while ago, I asked them about Vortex being Retract. You know, I know they did that with Phantom's Revenge, and Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood is also a Aero type coaster. Morgan is made by Aero Morgan Company, and yes, it could possibly be Retract, but I don't think it's going to be. This ride, it's really in need of a paint job for one, and I even mentioned that a while back, you know, that it needs to have a paint job because it's getting so old and it's time. So I think that the retracking, it's just so rough and everything. They'd have to retract the entire ride. It'd be very costly. So I don't think they're going to do that. I think they will just go ahead and scrap this ride, and it's going to be built. A new one will be built from ground up. So being retract, no, I don't think so. As a matter of fact, at Kennywood, Phantom's Revenge wasn't all the way retract, just portions of it was. So that's probably one of the reasons why that Vortex is going to leave, because they'd have to retract the entire ride. The entire ride's really rough. And another thing that might come in, you know, they like RMC now. So Cedar Fair is starting to deal with RMC. Could they possibly put a rail runner type coaster in? Could be. So that might be another ride that might possibly come, another type of roller coaster. And that being one of a kind type coaster, they may put that in at Kings Island instead of putting it in at Cedar Point, because Cedar Point is really landlocked. They have no space. Here at Kings Island, we got lots of space. So hopefully they'll try to put something like that in. That'd be really cool. And then also, Kings Island money spent by Cedar Fair. Somebody else commented in the video saying that Kings Island's going to end up getting taken apart and scrapped, and they're going to close it up, blah, blah, blah. No, they're not. They spent all this money revamping International Street, and they put all them pavers in. They revamped Coney Mall area and put all them new pavers in. And, I mean, they've done so much improvements, and they're getting ready to put in a $35 million roller coaster for next year. You know, they're not going to ditch Kings Island. Kings Island's here to stay. And I'm going to tell you, because Kings Island is in the top 3 parks of Cedar Fair Company. They're not going to ditch Kings Island. Kings Island is here to stay. And as a matter of fact, I think that Kings Island is going to be the next top park for Cedar Fair as a flagship park. They may eventually ditch Cedar Point and let Kings Island be the one, because Kings Island's got more space. And they can put in quite a few more coasters at Kings Island. You know, there's plenty of space. So they could make that into a big-time park if they choose. So Kings Island going away? No, it's here to stay. Last year it had 3.6 million visitors. Cedar Point had 3.7, and Canada's Wonderland had 3.8. So, no, it's not going to happen. It's here to stay. But the money that they've invested into the park, it's going to stay. I do want to, hopefully they do put their hotel in. I've heard rumors that they're going to put a hotel and possibly even bring a campground back. There's plenty of land over behind Banshee that they could put the campground right in there. And that's a possibility. I think that is a very good possibility that it may happen here in the near future. And I think that would be a big plus for the park. And if they did things like this, I'm sure the attendance will increase at Kings Island. And we probably would outdo Cedar Point and possibly even Canada's Wonderland. But time will tell, and that's only if things like that happens. Okay, there's one time, I'm going to go back with a thing back in 1993 that happened with me, and we was riding Vortex on opening weekend. It was a Saturday, and it was opening day, first public operating day at Kings Island, 1993. It was April, I can't remember the exact date, but it was April 1993. And I'll tell you when it was April 10th of 1993. That's when it happened. And what happened was we was on the Vortex, and here's a newspaper article that if you want to, you might want to go ahead and maybe pause the video, that way you can read it. But anyway, they didn't want to do too much publicity about it, but the coaster derailed, partially derailed, the train did. We were sitting in the second car of one of the trains, and the wheel assembly derailed off the track, partially. And when we got back to the station, it got hung up in the brakes, and the workers kept on pushing the brake release, trying to want to know why that the coaster wouldn't release. So finally one of them walked up there and says, "Oh my God." And I said, "Yeah, oh my God, I know something's wrong with this train." Because me being an experienced rider of Vortex, I mean, I knew something was wrong. And during that whole ride, I thought, well, he's going to die. I mean, because it was really scary. But it still had the safety mechanisms engaged to keep the ride from coming all the way off the track. So that's the reason why it never came all the way totally off. But there was partial derailment. So anyway, it was just because some of the bolts and nuts wasn't tightened all the way, I guess, when they put the train on the track, and they come loose. And another thing too, when it first came loose, I noticed it because we heard it, and we went down the first hill, and we came up the second hill where it goes above the pizza patio there at La Rosa's in Rivertown. We heard like clanging sounds, like nuts or bolts falling down, and it was hitting the metal, the metal rails and stuff going down, down to the ground. And you could hear it clanging going down. And it was like, well, damn, something just fell off of this thing. So all the way through the ride, it was scary. I mean, it was very rough. I mean, we had paint peeling all over us. I mean, we had orange paint peeling all over our face, our hands, heads. I mean, it just, paint peelings from the track, and it was from the metal that was scraping against the track, and it scraped a lot of the paint off. It was scary. It really was. But it was rough. Kind of bothered us a little bit, shook us up a little bit. We had some neck aches, back aches from it, and everything else because it beat us around pretty good. And it only affected the second car, so the rest of the train was okay. It was just the second car. But like I said, it got hung up in the brakes, and they was trying to get it to come in. It wouldn't go into the station, and it got hung out in the outer brakes right there just outside the main station there. And they had to remove that train. They had to come and take it off the track because they couldn't operate the ride anymore because that day they shut it down to investigate what happened and all that crap. So people had to walk down for the hill, and I mean, I remember the ride was shut down and people had to walk down the steps and everything because of what happened. So, but anyway, that is my story on Vortex. And yes, I'm very sad to see it leaving. I hate to see it leaving. I know a lot of people out there is going to be very upset over it, and but it's a business decision, and like I said before, labor is involved, and they're going to cut something. And I told you all that with that new funeral scene, that something's leaving, and everybody said, "Well, there ain't nothing posted." Well, of course it's not. But I said, remember last year about this weekend, they mentioned it last year that Firehawk was leaving in a month. So that's what they did again this year. They announced it today at 4:30 this morning, and that was when they broke the announcement that Vortex was leaving and it's being retired. And usually when they say it's retired, that means they're taking it out permanently. They're not going to retrack it and things like that. It's going to be cut down just like they did Firehawk. They're going to do the same thing with Vortex. They're just going to cut it up in pieces and haul it to the scrapyard. Now, I do think maybe one of the trains may end up in the roller coaster museum in Texas. Because a lot of times Cedar Fair does donate the roller coaster cars. But we got to remember, Vortex was definitely an iconic coaster. It was one of its kind, and it was a great coaster back in the day. And unfortunately, it's time for it to leave. So make sure you get to Kings Island and ride it. You got until October 27th. Make sure you get out there and ride it, because this is it. Oh, and another thing too, with me being on the very first train, I'm going to talk with Kings Island and ask them if we can have, maybe they can shout out to the former employees from back then and see if we can't have a reunion and have us do the final ride. Wouldn't that be cool? I would love to do something like that. And it'd be great if they did get all the employees that did ride the coaster back then that day, when we took that picture. It'd be great to sit there and see if we can get all them people back together and do the very last train ride of the year, of its life. That would be very cool. That would be something ecstatic. So yes, I am going to talk with Kings Island and see what they say about that, and hopefully they will do a Vortex reunion for the employees, and also let the reunion be with all present and past employees that has worked Vortex crew. That would be awesome as well. Again, it's very sad, but it's time. All right, guys, take care. Thank you so much. Please share, like this video, and I appreciate everything. I really do. And I will be coming out more videos in the future. And if there's anything else that you'd like to know about Vortex, if I could tell you anything that I know about it, I will share that information with you. All right, thank you so much, guys. Have a good night. Take care, and again, get to Kings Island, ride to Vortex while you got the chance. The weather's phenomenal right now. It's great weather to go and ride. So get over there and ride it one last time. And yes, I'm really sad because I hate to see it go, but it is what it is. All right, guys, take care. Thank you so much. And again, like and comment my video, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you. See ya. Bye.